So I spent the last 30 days rewriting my application that has over 200,000 lines of code, and I did a bunch of videos on that. So if this is the first video that you're watching in that series, click up at the top here. Somewhere in this video you'll see the link to the full playlist, and you could go back and watch from the start. So I'm not going to go into the details of the application, what I'm doing. In this video, what I want to do is just give you sort of a real world situation where sometimes I actually hit the limits on ChatGPT because there's just so much data that I'm trying to pump through the system. And as the application grows, it's getting more and more, it's getting harder and harder to manipulate the files. So in the early days when I started, it was just, you know, write a little bit of code, copy and paste from ChatGPT into the application, and that was fine. However, what I'll show you in this particular use case is that I now have literally hundreds of files that I need to manipulate. And one of the problems, this is a real world case that I'm working through right now, so I thought I'd record a video on it, which is I need to manipulate a bunch of the SQL scripts in order to fix a bug that I discovered in the application. And I'll show you how I'm getting around the limitations with ChatGPT in order to make that happen. But essentially what it is that the goal is to basically use code to write code. I'll show you what I mean in this particular case. So let's just jump into it and we'll talk about this for a second. So let's just talk about the problem. So the problem is that this is the SQL script. So I have on the database level, so this is the application here. On the database level, I have a scripts folder. That scripts folder is used to generate the actual scripts for the SQL on the database, right? So that database. So the problem is that there's, well, it's about let's go, so it's 0, 1, 1, 1, 100, 1. Let's call it about I don't even know how many tables here, but anyway, it's a lot. As you can see, there's a lot of tables. Okay, so it's just a lot of tables, and the problem with this is that I ran into an issue. So I'm using Postgres SQL, which is not something that I'm very familiar with, and I've decided to use that for some other reasons, which I won't go into. I'll go into that in another video. But one of the problems that I have is if I can go to, let me just see if I can find it very quickly. So operations.projects, yes. So if you look here, I have a tenant ID, a franchise ID, and an ID, and they need to be varchar 36 because these are actually unique. The mistake that I made is that if you look at these, I have tenant ID, varchar 225, and an ID, unique ID. So when I ran some tests, there seems to be some problems with the way how Postgres handles these IDs. So essentially what it's doing is it's padding the database. So for example, if let's say that the table only had 1, 2, 3 values, in order for it to meet this requirement of 255, it somehow puts a bunch of spaces in there, which I find kind of weird. So to pad the table, if that makes any sense. So the bottom line is I just need to trim the spaces off, if that makes any sense, right? So let's just say this, I need to trim the space. I'm not familiar too much with Postgres. Postgres is very new to me. So yeah, so as a result, the bottom line is, just for this conversation, is this needs to be 36, this needs to be 36, and then the same thing with this varchar 36. So they all need to be varchar 36. And that's fine. I could go through and manually do this for, I don't know, 50 tables or however you see in this list here. But the solution that I've been doing more and more over and over is using code to write code. So what I mean by that is I will take a script. So for example, let's open up this folder here. So I'm going to go to ChatGPT and we're going to do this live so I can show you what I mean. So you can understand and work through some of the problems that you might encounter when you're doing this type of stuff. So I'm going to take this folder here and I'm going to give it, I'm just going to give a snapshot of this so at least ChatGPT understands what I'm trying to do here. And then we're going to go to this bad boy. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to Python. So I got a Python. You could just do this on ChatGPT, but I got a Python AI wizard that I normally use. So I'm going to say I would like to point my point to a folder that contains SQL IQ, or say please file and replace following. So so basically what we wanted to do, we got to give a very specific instruction because this is code, right? Like we're gonna run it to test it. So we want to say if you find, so this, so in each table, so basically we're gonna say dismiss, replace with following. So we want to take that franchise ID, blah blah blah, and ID, and we want to replace it with this. So ID, yeah. So it's smart enough to figure out what I mean by that, right? And then I think that's it. That's all I need to do. Yeah, that's it. So I'm just going to tell it to, or just tell it need to be able to the path. Right. So with that, what I'm basically doing is writing code, right? Python code that's going to basically loop through each one of these files, and it's going to basically find these particular thing, and then it's going to replace it with updated values. All right. So that's what I mean by using code to write code, because if you try to do this any other way, I could probably upload all of these files, put it in ChatGPT, and then try to think. The problem with it is that it takes too long. You hit the limits on ChatGPT, etc. And so this has been the fastest way that I've found in order to be able to like just manipulate scripts at scale. So this is my path here. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna open up a new tab here, and then just go to, where are we going to? We're gonna go to let's go to dev, and then we go to test, replace code. Let's just call it replace code. Let's call it right. And you would think that I would test this on a small file first. Maybe we should do that, and then let's call this yeah, let's do this. So, new file. By the way, don't just copy whatever ChatGPT gave you. Read your code over. Make sure that you got a good understanding of what's going on. So, okay. So, what are we gonna do? Replace SQL path. So this is thing. Replacement, so franchise primary key to franchise. This is interesting. So it's just a key value pair that it's doing. And so I need to tell it that in some cases this, so write modified contents back to file. So let's just make sure that it handles. So two things we're going to do. One is we're going to tell it, we're going to make some improvements to this right off the top. So first, please add detail log, right? That's one. And then number two is, let's just stop that for a second, add detail logs. And then the second thing is make sure that it's ignoring any extra spaces. Because the files be the same between, right? I'm just trying to make sure that it understands those two to handle variations in space and add detail login. Use regulation to match, ignore extra spaces, including detail log. Yeah, so I just want to make sure that it kind of does that. Else what's going to happen is just going to kind of mess things up, right? Now that looks like what it's supposed to be, but yes. So it's going to ignore all that. So let's see, right? Who knows if this is going to work? I have no idea. But what could go wrong? Let's check this in, whatever I have. Always commit your code. Make sure you got a backup. Testing. Come on, computer's running slow. Okay, so here, replace, paste. Let's go find that file directory. Oops, no. This guy, this guy, this guy. And we're gonna put that here. And yeah, that's it. Just gonna run it. What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? So I'm using a virtual environment in order to mess things up. So let's go back to this for a second. Make sure that all of our files are checked in. Yeah. And just so you know that, let's just make sure that, yeah, so see here, right? So unique 255, doesn't matter, 255. Nothing like that is in here. 255, right? So it goes on and on and on. So any table that has that, we're gonna basically do that. Okay, so I'm going to, just for the sake of just not having conflicts between these two applications, I'm going to close VS Code. And yeah, we're going to close here. Come on. All right, so let's close VS Code. It's just going to be too much background stuff that's happening. And then let's do this. Do I need to do a pip install? Probably have to do login and a pip install re, maybe. We'll find out. Okay, try to do pip install re and thing. Okay, so let's try this. So py replace. Okay, I think that's done. Yeah, that was fast. So let's go back to VS Code, see how many files have been changed. Where am I? Here. Yeah, let's go over here. Okay, so let's see what we got. So 36, 36. Yeah, that's correct. This does not have one. Oh, interestingly. So I think it only updated the files that have all three of these use cases. So this one here, it did not update. That's interesting. tenant ID not null, search index. Yeah, a little weird, isn't it? Okay, but that's fine. I mean, it's... Oh, wait, what? What did I do? This is what I'm looking for here. I'm just double checking. So that's wrong. Okay, that's correct. That's incorrect. I'm not sure why it didn't get those two, but again, we're going to double check everything, right? There, right? So I just need to double check, but you got the idea. So some it missed. Oh, interesting, because it might be because I have some of them with the what's the pattern here? Because it did most of them. Oh, so let me just tell it that the file it skipped over some reason. Don't have ID. And so let's see if we can figure out why some reason I skipped over files that don't have ID. Let's address this by ensuring the script handles each replacement individually. Yeah, that's what I thought it was going to do, right? Because I guess this object here, right, replacement items. Yeah, okay. So this should fix that problem. I'm not going to, I'm going to leave VS Code open this time because it's not going to do too many. Okay, and do the same thing. Oops. Path. We need the path. We need the path. We need the path to the files. We need a path to the files. There. Problem solved. Okay, so let's just double check now. 36, 36, 36, 36, 36, 36. Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. Yeah, so you can see working, right? So this is a way that I've been using to kind of get rid of some of the limitation, because else what I would do, generally speaking, I mean, this wouldn't be a case where I would do that. I would just copy and paste it manually. Oh, interesting. It missed this. Why is that? But what I would do is, in most cases, I would just sit there and just kind of just keep, you know, copy and paste over and over and over. Or if it's a bunch of files, I would do that. But this is a great way to just kind of speed up the process. So anyway, hopefully you got some value out of this. Like, subscribe to the video. You're going to see more of my progress on this coding sort of journey that I'm on building this application. Then we'll talk about the actual application at some point. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.